So one thing I've noticed on this diet is I've definitely got stronger.
This is Eddie Hall, the world's strongest man. And he claims he got even stronger all thanks to a diet that most athletes are wary of due to its lack of a supposedly essential nutrient. Eddie has an upcoming fight he's training for, and he has to do two things that usually don't go hand in hand in the training world: shred fat and gain or at least sustain his strength at the same time. Despite his initial doubts about cutting carbs, Carnivore Dr. Sean Baker reassured Eddie that his approach could be very beneficial. As Professor Tim Noakes explains, once an athlete is fat adapted, they gain an edge in energy efficiency, like running on premium fuel instead of regular. And at Eddie's elite level, even small advantages can make a massive difference. A lot of this has to do with the combination of the body now having a steady fuel source, as well as reduced inflammation that can be triggered from plants or carbohydrates, but more on that later. Although Eddie isn't doing the most strict form of the carnivore diet, there's something to be said about still being able to eat over 10,000 calories per day while shredding fat and somehow getting even stronger as an elite athlete. So how is this possible, and what's really happening to his body on the carnivore diet? First off, it is surprising that Eddie Hall is seeing strength gains so quickly. At the time of this video, Eddie's been on the carnivore diet for just over 2 months, which is right around the time when most people just start experiencing the real benefits. In fact, the first month of the carnivore diet is typically the hardest. Many people experience fatigue, low performance, and a sluggish transition as their body shifts from using carbohydrates to primarily using fat for fuel. When I first transitioned into the carnivore diet myself, I went through a similar struggle. The first couple of weeks were pretty brutal. I was weaker, my energy was all over the place, and well, my drive was at an all-time low. It wasn't until about week 3 that I started feeling like myself again. By the 4th week, I was back to my baseline, and then things really started to improve. My libido skyrocketed, my energy was steady and consistent, my physical performance began to climb. This process of fat adaptation, where your body becomes more efficient at using fat for energy instead of carbohydrates, took about 4 to 6 months to fully kick in. With full-on fat adaptation usually taking about 6 to 8 months, Eddie may still be at the beginning of his transformation. Your body functions in a significantly different way when on a carnivore diet compared to a standard diet loaded with carbohydrates. The reason the first month is usually so bad is due to a combination of things, like your body undergoing a drastic change in the way it metabolizes and uses your food. And during this stage, most people are more likely to mess up because, well, they're new and don't really know what they're doing. So if you want a free guide to help you out, just check the link in the description below. One of the core reasons why this way of eating works so well for so many people, including athletes like Eddie Hall, is because it starts to line up or get very close to what the proper or ideal human diet is. For many people, this seems like a strange concept because we've always been told that everyone needs variety and that everyone needs completely different foods in their diet. While there are slight variations in what could be ideal for one person versus another, the diet should look very similar at their core. Humans are just like any other animal in the sense that there is a proper way of eating that aligns best with our physiology. Can you think of another animal that has a drastic variation of optimal nutrition within its own species? Cows eat certain grasses, pandas eat bamboo, lions eat meat, and humans, well, eat meat. One of the main reasons why I think this is because of the stable isotope data that reveals what humans have eaten for the majority of our time here on this planet. The fact that we are apex predators and many other parts of our physiology, or all of the parts of our physiology, point to the fact that we thrive on a diet mainly consisting of meat from large ruminant animals. But more on that in another video, because right now you might be wondering how Eddie Hall was able to shred so much fat while eating the same number of calories as before, about 10,000. Okay, so I don't want to get too far into the calories in, calories out debate, but this shows that tracking calories in, calories out isn't always the best predictor of what will happen to your body. But what can be a better predictor of body composition are the macronutrient ratios within the food that you are eating. For Eddie, he now really only consumes mainly 2 macronutrients, protein and fat, while limiting carbohydrates, which are non-essential. Although he still likely eats some carbs just because he eats a decent amount of dairy, which may put him around the 100 gram mark, this is almost nothing compared to the thousands of grams of carbs that he was eating previously. So in my opinion, there are 2 main factors as to why he is probably able to lose so much body fat while eating so much. First off, just like he stated, he has had a drastic reduction in inflammation. This may seem counterintuitive to some people, as there's a weird mainstream narrative that meat is somehow inflammatory. But the opposite is actually true, at least for humans. Carbohydrates are actually very inflammatory. All carbs turn into sugar in the body, so when you eat carbohydrates, you're better off thinking them as sugar. When in the blood, sugar can bind to proteins, which is called glycation. This can cause damage to the tissues and lead to inflammation in the body. Next is one of the more obvious reasons why people, including Eddie, see drastic reduction in inflammation on a carnivore diet: the elimination of processed foods. It kind of goes without saying, when you're mostly eating meat, you're not eating junk food like chips and fast food. I'm sure you're all well aware, highly processed foods usually contain compounds like refined sugar, sweeteners, artificial flavorings, and colorings that can cause significant inflammation and damage to the body. Now, the not so obvious cause of inflammation is actually the vegetables and other plant matter. Yes, there is a very good reason why vegetables are bitter, and it's because they contain inflammatory compounds known as anti-nutrients that can block the absorption of certain vitamins and minerals and wreak havoc on our bodies at the same time. Now, these anti-nutrients can definitely be reduced by preparing, cooking, or fermenting your vegetables properly, but even then you won't be getting rid of them 100%. And this leads to one of the areas that I think Eddie went wrong: fiber. Eddie still takes many supplements on his carnivore diet, as he sells most of them, but one of the more questionable ones that he takes is a fiber supplement. He still seems to be put off by the fact that the carnivore diet has no fiber, seeing this as a downside. He claims he supplements this to help keep it more regular, but I think he'd be better off without it. To start, fiber does act like an anti-nutrient in the body. Many people still aren't aware that fiber is actually completely indigestible by humans. Because of this, it prevents the absorption of certain vitamins and minerals in the body and gives your digestive tract a lot of extra work that it needs to take care of. This is why people that generally go 1 to 2 times per day end up going about 1 to 3 times per week. There isn't as much indigestible material to push out, and your body can now absorb and utilize almost all of what you are eating. Ironically enough, fiber advocates say that fiber sitting in your gut and fermenting, or rotting, is actually one of the main benefits, since it creates a byproduct called butyrate, which can help feed the gut lining. But this is completely unnecessary, especially if this is what you're going after, since once fat adapted, your body creates a ketone called beta-hydroxybutyrate that not only has similar or superior benefits for your gut lining, but also has benefits for many other tissues throughout the body, including the brain. But although I think Eddie got this part wrong, there are also many things that I think he's doing right. Since he now prioritizes fat for fuel, his body can now more readily use the fat on his body for energy, which could be in part why he feels stronger and has more energy. He is also consuming a large amount of protein, which is obviously crucial for not only muscle repair and maintenance, but for the proper function of cells in the body. When asked, he claims that he hasn't really seen any downsides, but does crave something sweet every so often. Now, this is completely normal, especially since most people have gone their entire lives eating highly processed foods that are engineered by scientists to be as delicious as possible. For most people, these cravings subside and completely go away within a few months. And here's the thing: providing your body with the most bioavailable forms of nutrients is one of the best ways to rid the addiction of junk food. Because although you may still have withdrawals, your body isn't craving nutrients, it's just craving that high you get from eating cake. This is one of the core components as well that makes his diet work so well, especially for elite athletes like Eddie Hall. You provide your body with all of the nutrients it needs in the most bioavailable forms, meaning that your body can actually utilize the nutrients more efficiently. Take protein for example. Proteins are made up of amino acids like leucine, lysine, and methionine, just to name a few which you might be familiar with. Your body needs certain amounts of each in the proper ratios. Animal proteins, unlike plant proteins, provide our bodies with all of the essential amino acids within their proper ratios, making them complete proteins. Keep in mind, there are nutrients in meat that we must have that we can't get from plants, but there are no nutrients in plants that we must have that we can't get from meat. So not only are you giving your body everything it needs in the best possible form, but you are also eliminating all processed foods and anti-nutrients in plants that could prevent the absorption of these nutrients. So at the end of the day, it's just about giving your body what it truly needs. This is why it isn't so surprising that the world's strongest man, Eddie Hall, saw rapid fat loss, increased energy, and even an increase in his strength in his first 2 months following a carnivore diet.